My research question is, should the distribution of cooking in American households change to improve the health of individuals in a heterosexual relationship? So keeping in mind that health is multifaceted, and I will be examining both the nutritional health as well as the psychological health of individuals. This research will focus on the current time period, but it will also include comparisons to the past. The research will be focused on households in the United States and using heterosexual couples as a model to examine the interactions between men and women. In this slide, I've listed 4 of the major ethical theories I'll be using to evaluate the research question proposed. The first one is equality, which states that we should treat all people equally. In this case, in my research specifically, this will be the equality between men and women. Furthermore, I have need. So in this case, people need good nutrition, exercise, and stable mental health in order to live a good and happy, healthy life. The third theory is utilitarianism. So this is the most important one for my argument because it states that we should provide the greatest good to the greatest number of people. In this case, because of gender roles and the unequal distribution of domestic cooking between men and women, men often have better psychological as well as physical health as opposed to women. So equaling and leveling the distribution of cooking in the household is a way to provide the greatest good to more people, meaning that women would now be involved in that playing field. And the fourth ethical theory I will use is deontology. This will be used to evaluate the counter argument, which you'll see that based on my research, I believe that the other ethical theories override and analyze the evidence better in this case. However, it is important to recognize that deontology could be used to suggest that one's duties are of utmost importance rather than the outcomes, as stated in utilitarianism. So in that case, it would be that the duty to care may be perceived by men and women differently because of their gender roles, meaning that women's responsibility to care would be more important than the effects that increased cooking time has in the household on both men and women's health, but especially the women's health. To initially prove that there is such an uneven distribution of cooking between men and women in a household, I wanted to include this quote from a study that shows that more than 80% of women aged 25 years or older responded affirmatively to the statement that they were the person who did most of the planning or preparing of meals in the family. So this study is done in 2022, so it just shows how recently there still is such a gap between how much women are cooking. So now that we know how uneven the distribution of cooking in American households is between men and women, we can ask what factors perpetuate this inequality. So there are 3 main factors that I wanted to point out from my research that I found interesting. One of them is the most basic and underlying cause, which is just historical gender roles, as we're all familiar with. And those gender roles prescribe that men should be passive and helpless when tackling domestic tasks such as cooking. And then the other 2 kind of build off of that and explain more exactly how that happens in a household. So one factor that I found interesting was maternal gatekeeping, which is essentially a phenomenon in which women set high performance standards for their male partner, which makes them a little bit insecure about cooking abilities, and that could be another reason why they're less likely to become involved in the kitchen. And then a third factor is the providing of dependency-oriented help by women, and also men's tendency to ask for that kind of help as opposed to autonomy-oriented help. And the difference between those two is that dependency-oriented help, as stated in the name, is really just asking for help to get something done, usually having the other person do it for them rather than learning the skills, as in autonomy-oriented help, where they would then develop a new skill set to be able to work independently in the kitchen. So because there's a tendency to ask for that, it really perpetuates the gender roles that already exist by not allowing men to learn new skills, but rather again, just relying on the woman to perform these domestic tasks. First, I will start by examining the nutritional differences between men and women as a result of the disparity between cooking time of the genders. So women who report cooking more were more health conscious and reported higher weekly fruit and vegetable consumption, whereas men had, on average, higher consumption frequencies for sugar-sweetened beverages, meat, and convenience food. So this quote really just sends home the fact that if you cook more, you're more likely to be more health educated, more aware of the foods you're eating, and as a result, you tend to consume foods associated with healthier eating, such as fruit and vegetables, whereas men are associated with not cooking as frequently as women, and therefore they tend to eat meat, convenience food, things that increase their disease risks. So in terms of equality, if men cook more, they will be able to reap the same benefits that women have, and making them more equal in a nutritional health perspective. According to the ethical theory need, men need to avoid processed foods, which are associated with cooking less, in order to protect themselves from diseases and to overall increase their health. They need to be eating fruit and vegetables for certain nutrients, and they also want to be more health conscious. And in terms of utilitarianism, by engaging more in cooking, men gain these nutritional benefits, so this is extending the good to more individuals. Currently, it is just women who cook more, or I should say mainly who cook more, and are enjoying these great health benefits. But if men partook in cooking more, they would be able to also enjoy these benefits, and that would overall just increase the amount of people who are enjoying better nutritional health and protecting themselves from disease. On the other end, we have the psychological differences produced by the disparities in cooking times between men and women. So as we saw in the slide before, the nutritional differences currently are benefiting women more, and gender roles should be leveled in the kitchen so that men can enjoy the same nutritional benefits as women. But now we turn to psychological differences, which show that evening the disparity between the cooking time of men and women would have a positive effect on women because of their damaged psychological health that is a result of the more roles that they have domestically, and a big one is cooking. So women hold multiple roles, such as being a wife, mother, homemaker, and these multiple roles lead to experience role overload that increases stress and burnout as a result. So one interesting thing about this is that when women are more likely to have this burnout, they're also more likely to have major depressive disorder, and this causes them to not be able to be as capable of being a mother as they would. And so a main point that I want to bring up is that according to utilitarianism, it is really important for these gender roles to be leveled and this disparity to be abolished, because not only are you improving women's psychological health by involving men more in the kitchen, but you're also improving the health of their children by allowing these women to be better and more emotionally available mothers. and then I will go back up to equality. So right now, women have more domestic roles than men, and involving men in cooking would increase equality in the household just in general. In terms of need, it is a basic right and need of women and men to have good psychological health, again, in order to be functional and happy, but also for the sake of children they may have in a domestic setting, as well as just being a good partner and available, especially if they have a career. Psychological health is really just a primary need for women to be able to function in society.